What's up, guys? It's Dale and Grace. Welcome to the Storyshow Podcast. And today we're going to be talking about the launch of our first Webtoon and the biggest mistakes and takeaways we've had throughout this whole process.
Yes. So for those of you who don't know, we launched our Webtoon Sidewalks about a month ago. I did as much research as I could on the platform before getting into it. And there is information out there, but you know, there's a lot of mixed theories about what to do. And so I figured we share a couple of those things as I pull it up on my phone, just to give you guys a sense if you're curious about creating your own stories, whether it's on YouTube or Webtoons. Okay, so first things first, let's talk about Sidewalks, what it is and what we hope to do with it. To give you a sense of why we even picked Webtoons as a platform, really starting at the beginning. Sidewalks is a romantic comedy. Really, it's a slice of life dramedy, I guess. It's a slice of life piece about this kid Luke who embarks on a journey to try to save his failing relationship, only to get stuck with her family for a week in a place he's never been before. And he's an only child, and so he gets completely overwhelmed by her crazy family and trying to find out where she is and gets stuck into the mayhem of this whole town. Now, that's, I guess, maybe somewhat of a spoiler, but because one of the first things I learned about Webtoons is just how patient you have to be. You know, we've got 6 episodes up on the platform, and we've literally just hit the first beat of the show, which is he gets dumped. So it's interesting, and when we spoke to Webtoons, they kind of told us that this is what we should expect because you really want to focus on character development up front, they said, and that, you know, the readers will kind of give it a shot because they know that you can't post all this content at once. It's not like an hour-long TV show every week. So one of the biggest lessons that I wanted to start with is just how, I guess, depending on the quality of your comic, and you know, I'll click on our first episode here and flip through some of that, just so people can get a sense, because we, you know, put a lot of work and effort into it. It's in full color and things like that, so it just takes some more time to do it. But we were told 40 to 60 panels weekly is what an Originals would do. Now, an Originals is funded, so it's a little different. You know, we could have a colorist, for example, and probably hit these markers. Right now, it takes us about 2 weeks to do 40 to 50 panels. And so what I originally thought was going to be weekly drops with a lot of content, we learned was quickly going to have to get split up into smaller pieces. And it means all of our good hooks and cliffhangers, they don't really land the way that they would have when we first started. But I would say that was one of the biggest lessons that we learned was how long it takes to do this at this quality, right?
And we met Webtoon creators at Comic-Con last year and talked to them, and it sounded rough. Like, you know, the day in, day out just drawing and trying to catch up, constantly, you know, falling behind the deadline. And we were scared to fall into that. And so I think it's a smart idea to split it into 2, even though our episodes do feel short. But I guess
it's
the
just a matter
of weekly drops
right.
is more important than bi-weekly long episodes,
yeah,
I guess.
I think we're going to get to that. We'll get to that as a separate point, how frequently to release content. But I think you can get a sense of what we chose, which was more frequent posts with less content. Although there are some unique things that I learned as it was launched in that regard, but I agree with you there, Grace.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it'll be cool once we have a bigger team, but literally right now it's a team of 1, 2 people running it basically.
Yeah, I mean, we basically have our illustrator, you know, who's essentially full-time just drawing, and you know, he's trying to keep it to 8 hours a day as best he can as well. And so, you know, that's definitely one of the biggest things to get into is it is time consuming. It is labor intensive. Obviously things like AI and stuff are going to make it a lot easier. But if you want original IP with original characters, you cannot copyright that. content yet. And so what we were told when we first got into this was a Webtoons original, which is what we're trying to mimic, of course, because we would like to be one someday, is going to produce somewhere between 40 and 60 panels weekly in color. And so when we were planning for that, that's kind of what I did. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get an illustrator. I'm going to write these scripts. We're going to plan out one season, and we're going to give it a shot. And so the tricky thing is, I was coming from film, so I was like, how many pages of screenplay translate? What's cool about Webtoons as opposed to traditional comics is you can kind of work out if you're comfortable with that, if you more came from like filming background. It works much better than a traditional comic strip because you're not bound to a page. So basically, it's as many panels as it needs to be. So a screenplay format lends itself better, whereas when we did this traditionally, when we tried our first comic last year, you really do kind of want to know how many panels even fit on a page, plan out what the last panel is to make it a page turner, etc. And so, so that was the first interesting thing, is that when we jumped into, we said, okay, let's just take a guess. We're going to guess 5 pages of screenplay per episode. And that ended up being too much for certain things. When we went in that direction, it ended up being too much content. We ended up trying somewhere between 3 and 5 pages. And what I realized as I was doing this is like action sequences and things that one moment can require 3 panels, like just how to kind of be cognizant of that as you're writing. And so I got a little bit more efficient at that along the way. But immediately, once he started drawing it out and stuff, we realized, okay, this is taking 2 weeks, not 1 week, because he's one guy. And so we made the tough decision to split up what were these standalone 40 to 50 episodes. First big lesson is sort of map out how much you're going to write and be ready for it to be more panels than you think, I guess, right? And understand the difference between the action sequences and the dialogue sequences and where you can kind of cut corners and things like that. There's a lot that I'm learning in that area. Okay, so there's that. We wrote 40 to 60 page episodes. There were about 3 to 5 pages of screenplay. We then took that, we made shot list of that, and that's when the truth kind of got revealed, right? And then I started to sort of dial that in. So that's a good tip. And if you guys want to see our screenplays or shot list, please reach out. I will happily give them to you guys if you guys want to learn how to make a webtoon, or how we made the webtoon. Then it was kind of up to the artist, how fast the artist works, how fast the artists learn. Now, I want to share how we used AI in this process to give you guys a sense of how we got this thing off the ground. I gave you guys the story earlier. All of a sudden, I said, well, how the heck? I want to move fast. And the other big thing I got to say is the pre-production is a lot more than you think it's going to be, too. The world building, the designing of the characters. Grace, do you even remember that part? It seems so long ago now.
Yeah. I remember being like, why are we doing this? It got so granular.
Floor
I was
plans.
Like, do research on what kind of houses exist in New Jersey in this area and what year they were built and why they all look the same. And I was like, what is the purpose of this? And then, doing floor plans and doing really in-depth character development, like going through what's their background, what is their fear, what do they want, what do they look like, what do they wear. So many things that we'd go in depth on a conversation about, like whether or not a person wore a ring or something, and it's like, well, who gave them that ring? Why do they wear it? Does the other person have a matching ring? Or all these scenarios. It felt so unnecessary, but once you have that so solid, every detail worked out, it makes the storytelling process so much easier because everything's a clear decision. Story-wise, you're like, oh, this would happen because this person would do this because they're like this and they're here. Yeah. So.
Yes, and so that's the other big tip is like spend the time there while you can, because once you're going, you're going. Mm-hmm. And in another episode, we're going to get into how we got stuck with this scene that has been the bane of my existence. That's probably maybe coming out in a month from now. It's like, it's just been so bad over every iteration of it. Maybe we cracked it this time, but that's kind of a good example though of saying like, well, what needs to be developed in the character? Why do we even have this scene in the first place? What value does it even have? And it kind of makes it, you know, easy to know if you need stuff or not and what purpose each scene is going to have when you kind of know where you need the characters to go. So you do want to plan your story out, you know, and so I knew that the first, you know, the story is called Sidewalks, but, you know, what it stands for, 7 days where the streets have no sidewalks. It's just 1 week that he spent over in this family's house is what the story is framed by. And so, you know, the first little arc that we put up is called Day Zero. And then the next little arc is going to be called I've Got a Train to Catch, because if you guys are readers, then you'll know at the very end of this little big story beat for him, he gets dumped. His phone dies at a very unexpected moment, and then he just has to decide, is he going to go to try to save her or just accept his fate? And he decides he's going to go. And so he's got a train to catch, and the whole next set of episodes is geared around him trying to catch this goddamn one train so he can get to New Jersey and have a shot. And so that's what we're working on now. But again, it's one of these things where really what would be 2 Webtoon originals get split into 4, 5, 6 separate episodes on Canvas, just because it takes us 2 weeks to do this, and we really didn't want to be posting every other week. And I think that's the next big sort of tip or lesson that we can gather. And I know we were mentioning this before, I'll go more in depth now, which is I actually think posting frequency is more meaningful than people think. And this is not like in the long term. In the long term, if you read a great book, you read a great book. Like if you know, let's just forget about that. Number one and most important, guys, is make a great story. You know, make engaging characters that people want to read, and make sure that you enjoy what you're doing. Because, you know, you're in it for the long haul once you get these things going, right? You want to be consistent with your creative work. So in this case, though, we kind of noticed, hey, every time you post, you get this little up sticker. Anytime I see a platform doing something like that, it seems to incentivize that kind of behavior. And the other thing that we learned was if you post for 3, I don't even know if this is still the case, but after the first 3 that you read, it asks you if you want to subscribe. So there's a tip out there to start with 3 episodes so that if they do read 3, they get asked to subscribe, they're more likely to do it. So we went with that strategy, posted 3, and then have not posted one since for the next 3 weeks. We're about 4 or 5 weeks into this journey at this point. And an interesting thing did happen along that way, which is something you can't account for. So remember to control only what you can. But about a week ago when we posted our episode, we got selected under fresh picks on Canvas. And so overnight we went from, what was it, 20 to 80 subs or something?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. That's crazy.
Yeah. And we got our first set of comments. And like, it's, you know, we hit 1,000 page views. It was really exciting. And I kept wondering, wow, what the heck happened, right? Like, how did this thing pop off, right?
Yeah.
So I started looking, and sure enough, we got featured under this like fresh picks thing, and now there were other established creators and things on there. But yeah, we were like number 3.
No, something we learned from that being the fresh pick was the thumbnail for this episodes, and we had it was like a profile view.
The show thumbnail, to be clear, not
the show
each
thumbnail.
episode
yes,
thumbnail.
not episode. The show thumbnail. We had a profile of both of our main characters holding hands with a cloud of all the other characters surrounding them, but mainly you see the 2. But then we noticed that all of the other ones are characters in love about to kiss. Yeah, most of them are about to kiss. So there's that tension, and you see their faces much clearer as up close. So we were like, what should we do there? So we changed it to this awesome split shot where it's 2 of our main characters facing forward. And yeah, one of them is crying, one of them is not crying, and one of them is concerned. Yeah, trying to describe it for the listeners. But anyway, yeah, just basically getting an up close face thumbnail.
It's a key moment from the first big scene where they're having their big breakup, you know? So there's a lot of emotion in it. Now, I think truly we should design a thumbnail, right? And we did design the poster, but in the small circle and in the small square, you know, that poster has a little much going on, a little too much going on, at least, you know. And this was just what I liked about it is ours stuck out a bit. It looks a little different. Even now, it still sticks out a bit. We don't know if this is gonna work, but I did see, we immediately could tell, like, oh, this one grabs us, and sure enough, that's the one that had the most page views and the most amount of subscribers. But it's an artist who has been doing this for a lot longer, and I think they just kind of know what works, you know, at this point. And so, yeah, that's a really good call out. Is we started, once we saw that we were on this Fresh Picks thing, we were like, man, what do we do? How do we best make use of this? And so it lasts a week if anybody gets picked. And it made me go, damn, I wish we were posting every day, right? We've seen how valuable that can be on a platform like YouTube. It's not easy to do it. No, it's not like, you know, we certainly can't keep up. But I'm just saying, it made me wish that we could post every day. Obviously, right now we can post once a week. And that's mainly because another great tip that we've been given is, you know, which we know from content creation in general, is you want to be ahead of your audience so that you can keep that consistency. Right now, I think we're about 6 episodes ahead. So, and it takes about 2 weeks to make 3 episodes, because remember, we're doing them in sort of a 40 to 60 panel format, and then just finding really good break points within that to, you know, to put them up on the platform. And so we're about 6 weeks ahead, which, again, why do you do that? You do that because, people want to take a break, people want to go on vacation, people get sick, and you don't want to be a slave to it. I think it really hurts creativity. So we have been working on this for 6 months and have only been putting it out for 1, right? And so that allows us this sort of freedom where, you know, even if I need to take a hiatus or stop or something like that, we can still continue to post for weeks on end and not skip a beat. Because I'm telling you, that's the other big thing I'm noticing is, like, the only real thing you have control over is, 1, just hopefully telling a good story, and 2, how often you post. Those are the only things that you really can do outside of marketing the book for yourself on social media and other things. And so this brings us to our third big tip, which is the platform is only going to do so much, right? It is trying to find readers that like your book, much like YouTube is trying to find viewers that like your videos. But, you know, there's so much competition. There's the original section. There's the canvas section. And so we are really trying just a slow and steady approach. We're very fortunate that we got featured. We now have like 185 subs. I mean, more than I already imagined. We have comments. That's amazing. We love you guys. We thank you so much for that. But really, it's a grind. And I think it's important that people recognize that. It is a game of consistency, a game of hitting it each week. If you can hit it more than once each week, do that. But what right now for us, we're like, we can designate this amount of money and this amount of time to it and kind of let it be and kind of not freak out that we're not growing as fast as we thought, or, you know, that we're not sure how people, you know, how many people like it or whatever. And I'm trying not to get stuck in that, because, like, there's so much more story to be told. And I think as there is more on the platform and it's more bingeable and people can read a few and come back to it, I think that opens up also just more chances for viewership. We've kind of seen this on our YouTube channel. You know, once somebody sees that they like you, they go back and they've watched everything that's on there, which is really cool. We really, really appreciate you guys who do that as well. And we get comments on old videos. And we're like, oh, dude, this guy totally did that. Yeah, okay, go ahead.
You know, today someone was commenting on one of the later Attack on Titan videos, one of the later videos I've done, and he was like, I know that you've watched Naruto. And I was like, how? I can't believe you know that. You just watched all my videos, I guess, right?
Yeah, they must have heard it, seen it in a short. They saw that we reacted to some clips from it before or something. But yeah, so we're learning that, you know, the audience is there and it takes time to build it up. And with original content, this is, you know, it's kind of harder. That's why we're trying to leverage the fact that we love anime and our main character loves anime. And again, what's funny is subtle stuff is in there. Somebody actually called out that we have the Full Metal Alchemist reference that's in there. If anyone's read it, it happens pretty early on in the first, maybe in the middle, 4, 5, or 6, something like that. We have a big Naruto reference coming in. We have some other things that are happening that I'm excited.
So the
for people
comments
to see,
are really what's been exciting, I think, and letting us know that this has, I don't know, this has legs. Like, you know, people are like, oh, I'm subbed before it gets big. You know, that's the vibe of the comments, and they're liking it, and they're thinking the things that we want them to think about the story.
Yep.
You know, so
I think that's the best we
cool.
can do right now is say, like, okay, this was our intention. Somebody felt it good.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's going to be more people where that came from, we hope. Like, where there's one, there's many. I don't really know. We're going to find out. But again, I think that's the last big tip is just focus on what you can control, right? So just like you can market the book. You can try to get more readers for it. You can try to outwardly look for that audience by getting involved in these communities and different platforms. And then you cannot control getting picked on a fresh pick, getting featured on a weekend. You can't control that part. That's the platform. And so you just want to be ready, doing everything you can. When those opportunities come, you know, it'll sort of really take off. That's kind of the way that we're looking at it. You know, I was kind of to talk more about the YouTube side, but it's very similar to how we're approaching Webtoons. Our Attack on Titan videos are doing well for us. That's awesome. And I kind of think like, damn, what if we started with Attack on Titan content? But what I kind of realized was we got good. We got by the time we got there, we're good at we really figured out what our reaction videos are like, you know, what is our, what is our brand and our style of this thing? And so now that we're doing it, I'm glad that we were kind of, you know, we kind of knew what we were doing more. And for those of you who keep asking about Naruto, it's kind of the same thing. I'm like, hey, if we know we're going to do Naruto, we know it's such a fan favorite. I want to make sure, one, that we're good enough to do it. And two, because I can now that we're kind of have this engine going, I'm seeing the path to monetization. And I think I want to wait till we're monetized to really be able to take full advantage of doing something like Naruto. So, you know, it really is looking far ahead when it comes to this stuff. By the way, this entire conversation has been not looking at it as something that you want to do sustainably, that you hope to make some money from in the future to be a full-time creator, not as a hobbyist. As a hobbyist, do it, you know, however you want to do it, whenever you want to do it. But for us, we're like, how do we make this efficient and something that we can do with our regular day jobs? Of course, I know a lot of you guys doing this is the second thing, just like us. And so, you know, that's kind of what some of the biggest learnings were as far as how we got off the ground. Let's summarize it.
It's been fun. Okay.
You know, and I think next week we'll dig into some more of these things. What I would love to do is actually go through maybe some of the episodes to date as we're about to launch, you know, sort of start the second little mini arc in the first day of his adventure. But the three big takeaways that we have is, number one, plan your content out ahead, put the work into pre-production, and recognize that you're not going to get as much done as you'd like. You know, so it's good to have a clear roadmap, but then you got to be patient and making sure that you are sustainably able to post as frequently as you can, which would be tip number 2, post as frequently as you can, which I think shorter but more frequent gives you more opportunities to grab people. And then when you get featured, you just want to make sure you have enough content on there. I mean, you can't really control that part, but, you know, but that's what I would say. Start with 3, post 1 a week. Seems to be a cadence a lot of people can follow. And I don't know, what would you say? It's maybe only like 10 to 15 panels, right? Or 20 panels tops a week, something like that. It seems to be what our average is. And I think like one person was kind of complained about there not being enough, but I'm like, you know, I just replied like, bruh, that's what we can do right now. It takes 2 weeks to do these, you know, in color, polished up look and all that. And we don't want to sacrifice the quality, because I think, again, looking at tip number 3, control what you can, okay, is to recognize that when I look back, however long this thing lasts, that I've really felt good about how we started. I'm sure, too, trust me, we're definitely getting better along the way. But at least I'm like, okay, we gave it our best effort from day one. And so we kind of picked what we cared about as far as a metric of quality internally. And then, are able to consistently produce that. And I know we'll get better and we'll get more efficient at it. But that's really the only thing we can control, right? The art, the story, and hopefully, the platform will help us by finding the right people, as well as the work we're putting in to find the right people for it. So, yeah. Anything you wanted to say as we wrap this up?
I mean, thank you to the fans. That's really what it comes down to. I feel like it's been awesome seeing the comments come in and seeing everyone. There's one commenter, Shuba Queen, who's been a fan and commenting on every single episode. And yeah, it gets me excited because it's really, I mean, you could see it having, I don't want to say seeing it having an impact. That's your thing. But I feel like I'm stealing your thing. But it's cool to see people interacting with it and, people's opinions, people's constructive criticism, the fun they're having. So it makes it feel real.
Yeah,
so,
totally.
Not just floating in the ether. So, yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
I think there is something to say about actually putting it out. We made something, it's coming out. We're supporting it. Like, that's a really fun thing, especially for me as a filmmaker. I haven't really put anything out in a long time, and this has been an awesome experience so far.
I think we talked about it a few episodes before about how we felt when we first posted it, and we felt nothing because we've been with it for such a long time, and I feel like the comments coming in is the feeling that I expected when we first dropped it, because now feels real.
Also, now I'm getting back into, like, we're starting to catch up to where I had written, so I'm like, I have to look at these episodes again that I wrote months ago, and I'm checking new thumbnails, and I'm like, oh my god, these are so much better. We're learning so much more about the best way to maximize the spacing of it and the whole nine, and so I feel very much like that's the fun part for me. And so, guys, if you are reading, please comment and give us the feedback. It lets me know how you're feeling about it, how you feel about where things are heading. And so that's been definitely my favorite part so far as well. Well, that does it for this episode of the Storyshow Podcast. Grace and I will be back next week to talk more Attack on Titan and Death Note. And for any of you guys who are interested in checking out the Webtoon, we have a link in the description and in the comments below. 9 p.m. Eastern on Webtoon's campus. We really appreciate the viewers here and the readers, of course. Check it out. Let us know what you think. And I think that'll do it. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.